Hey everyone, Kamani still here. Well, an AI version at least. Given it's the age of AI, I figured I'd do something different and make this episode explicitly driven and created by AI. So shout out to Riverside and Notebook for making this possible. That being said, the next episode, number 4, will be me personally reviewing this episode and covering the deal memo too. Funny how this AI intro sounds like me, to be honest. That being said, no video is available, given that I did not find any free AI video podcast platforms. Very sad. Yes, but enjoy.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at something a little different. We're going to be actually taking a look at a deal memo.
Oh, wow.
From an angel investor.
Okay.
So you get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
To see what kind of thought processes go into an investment decision.
Cool.
And this is from Kamani, who has a really cool social media platform called 17Nexus, where he's documenting his journey as an angel investor.
Okay.
He is hoping to have 15 companies in his portfolio by the end of 2025.
Wow.
He's currently got 3.
Okay.
And so this deal memo is actually his first one.
Oh, cool. So like we're getting in on the ground floor of this.
Yeah. So we're going to get to see some of the things that maybe he learned from putting this together, or maybe some of the things that he wishes he had done differently.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's going to be, it's really cool to kind of see this kind of stuff. And the company he's looking at is Liquid Piston.
Okay.
Which makes some pretty revolutionary engine technology.
Yeah. I think I've heard of this company before. I'm not sure, though.
Yeah, they've been around for a while, but they're really starting to make waves now.
Okay.
So we're going to start off with the problem that Liquid Piston is addressing. And I'm really curious to kind of hear what stood out to you in this section.
Well, what really jumped out at me was how Kamani framed the problem.
Yeah.
He didn't just list like a bunch of technical hurdles or challenges. He actually tied them to the bigger picture, like the trends that are going on in the defense industry. And even beyond that.
Yeah. He did a good job of kind of setting the stage.
He did.
And making it clear, like, why this problem is important.
Yeah.
Not just that it exists. So what were some of the key pain points that Liquid Piston is tackling?
Okay. So there were 4 main things he pointed out. The first one was the inefficiency of traditional engines. They guzzle fuel. And that's a problem for a lot of reasons, obviously cost, but also, environmental impact and even logistical challenges. And Liquid Piston tackles this with something called the high efficiency hybrid cycle. I think it's HEHC for short. Yeah. Which is a really innovative approach. I'm actually pretty interested to see what our listeners who are a little more technically minded think about this HEHC approach. So if you're out there listening and you know a thing or two about engines, let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, please chime in. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so inefficiency, that's a biggie. What's next?
Okay, so number 2 on Kamani's list was the problem of bulk and weight. Traditional engines, they're heavy. They take up a ton of space. And that limits what you can do with them. But Liquid Piston's engines, they're incredibly compact, like up to 10 times smaller and lighter than your typical diesel engine.
10 times smaller. That's insane.
It is. And this is where I think Kamani's inexperience as an investor kind of shines through, because a claim like that, it's bold, it makes you sit up and take notice, but it also makes you wonder, can they really deliver on that promise?
It's that balance, right, between being excited about the potential, but also being realistic.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We get to see Kamani grappling with that balance as he learns the ropes of angel investing.
Absolutely. So we've got inefficiency, we've got bulk and weight. What's the third problem they're tackling?
The third one is noise and vibration. I mean, think about it. Engines can be pretty rough. Loud, shaky, not exactly a smooth ride, but Liquid Piston claims that their design is elegantly simple. And that simplicity leads to a quieter, smoother operation.
I love that phrase, elegantly simple.
Me too. It's almost poetic.
Yeah, it suggests that they're not just brute forcing their way to a solution, but that they're actually thinking about design and aesthetics as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of thinking It permeates everything they do.
All right, so what's the fourth and final problem?
The fourth problem is fuel flexibility. A lot of engines are designed to run on very specific types of fuel, which can be a real limitation, especially in a sector like defense, where you need adaptability. You need to be able to use whatever fuel is available.
Right, you can't always be picky about what you're putting in the tank.
Exactly. And that's where liquid piston really shines, because they're engines. Get this, they can run on diesel gasoline, natural gas, and even JP8 jet fuel.
Wow, that's incredible. Talk about versatility.
Right.
So they're addressing some pretty major challenges with their technology. But who are they actually targeting with this solution? Who's their ideal customer?
Their primary focus, at least for now, is the U.S. defense sector.
Makes sense.
So we're talking Department of Defense, defense contractors, aerospace companies, that whole world.
Yeah. And it seems like their technology is a perfect fit for the needs of the defense industry. They need lighter, more efficient, more adaptable equipment.
Absolutely. And Kamani's really picked up on that. But what's interesting is that he also sees potential for them to expand into other markets down the line, like UAVs, industrial power systems, even hybrid electric vehicles.
So he sees this as a technology that could have applications far beyond just the defense sector.
Exactly. But he also acknowledges that for now, they need to focus on building a strong foundation in defense before they branch out too far.
It's that whole focus thing, right? You can't be everything to everyone.
Exactly.
So before we move on to the next section where Kamani dives into Liquid Piston's solution, what were your biggest takeaways from this problem statement? What impressed you? What left you scratching your head?
You know, I think Kamani did a fantastic job of connecting those problems to the bigger picture. He really showed that he understands the defense industry and the challenges they're facing. It wasn't just a list of bullet points, it was a thoughtful analysis.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
It felt like he was really trying to get to the heart of the matter. And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just hearing about Liquid Piston, we're seeing them through the eyes of a new investor and learning right alongside him.
I like that. It's like a shared learning journey.
Exactly.
So what stood out to you?
I think what impressed me the most was how thorough he was. Even though this is his first deal memo, he didn't cut any corners. He really dug deep into the problem space and considered all the angles. It shows a level of commitment and attention to detail that's really promising.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely not just dipping his toes in the water. He's diving right in.
He is. So now that we have a good understanding of the problem Liquid Piston is trying to solve, I'm really eager to hear how they're tackling it. Let's move on to the next section and explore this X-engine technology that has everyone buzzing.
Okay, so let's dive into the solution now, the heart of any good deal memo.
Yeah, I'm ready to hear more about this X-engine technology, especially after all that talk about elegant simplicity.
Well, Kamani focuses specifically on their XTS 210 engine. He describes it as a 25 horsepower two-stroke engine that's both supercharged and liquid-cooled.
25 horsepower packed into a tiny package. I'm starting to see why people are excited about this, but how does it actually work?
Right. So Kamani's memo doesn't get too technical, but he does mention that they've developed a unique thermodynamic cycle called the high-efficiency hybrid cycle, or HEHC for short. And this cycle allows for higher compression ratios and more efficient combustion, which is how they achieve those impressive fuel efficiency numbers.
Okay, so more power, less fuel. Yeah, that's a pretty compelling combination. But for those of us who aren't engineers, can you explain what that actually means in real-world terms?
Sure. Think about it this way. Imagine an engine that can give you the same power output as a traditional engine, but it's a fraction of the size and weight and uses way less fuel. That's the kind of game-changing potential we're talking about here.
Okay, now that's something I can wrap my head around. And I remember Kamani mentioned a specific fuel consumption target. Okay. Was it under 350 grams per kilowatt hour?
Yes. He highlighted that they're aiming for less than 350 grams per kilowatt hour, which, if they can achieve it, would be significantly better than most conventional engines out there.
So we've got this compact, efficient multi-fuel engine. Where does Kamani see this technology fitting into the defense landscape?
He sees a lot of potential applications, especially in areas where size, weight, and efficiency are absolutely crucial. Things like unmanned aerial vehicles, portable power systems for soldiers in the field, and even hybrid electric platforms for military vehicles.
It sounds like it aligns perfectly with the trends we're seeing in the defense industry. The shift towards unmanned systems and lighter, more mobile equipment, and of course the need to reduce fuel dependence.
And Kamani's not just speculating. He points to the contracts Liquid Piston has already secured with AFWERX, the U.S. Air Force's technology accelerator, and DVCOM, the U.S. Army's Combat Capabilities Development Command.
Right. Those contracts were for $35 million and $8.3 million, respectively.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have a promising technology. It's another to actually get buy-in from the very institutions you're targeting.
These contracts aren't just about funding either. They give Liquid Piston access to valuable resources and expertise within the defense sector, and it shows that they're collaborating with their target customers.
It's like they're getting a real-world test drive for their technology, proving its capabilities, and refining it based on feedback from the people who will actually be using it.
Exactly. And that's what Kamani emphasizes. He sees these contracts as proof that Liquid Piston can not just innovate, but also execute and deliver on real-world projects.
It definitely builds credibility and shows potential for long-term success. Okay, so we've got a solid understanding of the problem and the solution. Now, I'm really curious about the market opportunity. How big is the pie that Liquid Piston is trying to grab a slice of?
This is where it gets really interesting. Kamani breaks it down using the classic TAM-SAM framework. Total addressable market, serviceable, available market, and serviceable, obtainable market.
To be honest, I always get those a little mixed up. Can you give us a quick refresher on what each of those means?
Of course. So TAM, that's the total market size for a product or service. SAM is the portion of the TAM that your company can realistically reach. And SAM is the slice of the SAM that you can realistically capture in a specific time frame, say the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, that helps. So what are those numbers for Liquid Piston? How does Kamani size up the market opportunity?
Well, he estimates the TAM to be a whopping $3.89 billion.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah. He arrived at that number by considering 55 Department of Defense entities and around 1,500 defense contractors and subcontractors, and assuming an average revenue per customer of $2.5 million, primarily from contracts.
So a huge EE market. But as you said, TAM is just the starting point? What about the SAM, that more realistic slice?
He estimates the SAM to be $194.38 million, which represents a 5% penetration rate of that $3.89 billion TAM.
Why 5%? What's the reasoning behind that?
He justifies it based on a few factors. Liquid Piston's existing traction in the market, remember those contracts we talked about, the anticipated increase in demand for compact, efficient engines, and their targeted focus on specific applications where their technology really shines.
So it's not just a random guess. It's based on a combination of market research industry trends and a realistic assessment of Liquid Piston's capabilities.
Exactly. He's doing his due diligence and applying those classic business analysis tools. But remember that $194 million SAM is still a projection over a longer time frame. To understand the more immediate opportunity, we need to look at the
All right, let's talk SOM. Then how much of that SAM does Kamani believe Liquid Piston can capture in the near term?
This is where it gets ambitious. He sets the SOM at $58.31 million. That's a 30% penetration rate of the SAM.
30%? That's a pretty aggressive target. What makes him think they can achieve that level of market share in just a few years?
Well, he points to their niche expertise in a rapidly growing market, their proven track record of innovation and execution, and those strategic partnerships they've already built within the defense sector.
So he's betting on their ability to scale up and meet that increased demand, which is often the toughest challenge for young companies making that transition from R&D to full-scale production.
You're absolutely right. And that's something we'll discuss more when we get to the risks and mitigation strategies outlined in his memo. But before we do that, let's shift gears and talk about the competition. Because Liquid Piston isn't operating in a vacuum. They're going up against some big players in the engine technology space.
Okay, let's talk competition. Who are the heavy hitters that Liquid Piston has to contend with? I'm curious how a young company like this can hold its own against the giants of the industry.
Okay, so we've talked about the problem, the solution, this huge market, but as with any investment, there are always risks.
Right. It's never a sure thing. So what did Kamani identify as the potential challenges that Liquid Piston could face?
Well, he's pretty thorough in his assessment and doesn't shy away from the downsides. The first one he highlights is their dependence on defense contracts.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
It's their main focus right now. But what happens if defense budgets get cut, or priorities change, or there are new regulations?
Exactly. It's a valid concern. And Kamani acknowledges that to mitigate this risk, he suggests that Liquid Piston needs to think about diversifying its revenue streams.
So not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Right. They could potentially expand into those commercial markets we touched on earlier, like UAVs, industrial power systems, or even hybrid electric vehicles.
Spreading the risk makes sense. But those markets are pretty competitive too, right? They'd be going up against established players.
Absolutely. And Kamani knows that competition is fierce no matter which way you slice it. But he believes Liquid Piston's technology is strong enough to disrupt multiple industries. They just need to prove themselves in the defense sector first.
Okay, so build that solid foundation and then expand. Makes sense. What about other risks?
Another big one is scaling up production. I mean, they've nailed the prototypes, they've got those initial contracts, but can they actually ramp up manufacturing to meet larger scale orders without sacrificing quality or cost efficiency?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge for a lot of startups going from small batch production to mass manufacturing. It's not easy.
Not at all. It requires a whole new set of skills and expertise, and Kamani recognizes this. He emphasizes the need for strategic hiring, bringing in people with experience in manufacturing logistics, supply chain management, all those operational aspects that are critical for scaling a business.
So it's not just about having a great product. It's about having the right people to actually get that product to the customers.
Exactly. And it's not just about quantity either. It's about quality, attracting top-tier talent who can not only execute, but bring new ideas to the table.
Building a team that can grow and evolve along with the company. What else is Kamani worried about?
Well, he also brings up the constant pressure of competition. We've talked about those established players in defense, but there are also new startups popping up all the time, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's a fast-paced industry. You got to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And Kamani really stresses the importance of continued investment in research and development. They can't afford to fall behind. They need to keep innovating and improving their designs.
It's like that saying, you got to run just to stay in place. But even with all these potential challenges, it seems like Kamani's quite bullish on Liquid Piston. What makes him so optimistic?
I think it's a combination of things. He's clearly impressed with their technology and the team behind it, but he also puts a lot of weight on their track record.
What do you mean?
They've consistently hit their milestones, delivered on their promises, and secured those high-profile contracts. It shows a pattern of execution, which is super important for an investor.
It's one thing to have a great idea, but it's another thing entirely to make it happen.
Exactly. And Liquid Piston seems to be doing both. They've got the vision, the technology, the team, and the track record to back it all up. But Kamani's not naive either. He knows there will be bumps in the road.
So what's his final verdict? What's his overall takeaway from this deep dive into Liquid Piston?
Well, he sees them as a company that's not just riding the wave of innovation, they're driving it. He thinks they're at the forefront of a technological shift that has the potential to change entire industries.
Right.
He acknowledges the risks, but he also believes they have what it takes to overcome them and achieve significant success.
It's inspiring to see that kind of conviction, especially from a new investor. He's not just betting on a company, he's betting on progress.
I think that's a great point. It's a reminder that investing is about more than just numbers. It's about supporting bold ideas and the people behind them.
Well said. It's been a fascinating deep dive exploring Kamani's first foray into the world of angel investing.
Definitely learned a lot about Liquid Piston, the challenges and opportunities in engine technology, and the mindset of a budding investor.
Me too. And it's a good reminder that even with all the data and analysis, there's still an element of intuition and belief that drives successful investing.
Yeah, you have to have that faith in innovation.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with a question to think about. Given the incredible advancements happening in fields like AI, robotics, and autonomous systems, how might Liquid Piston's technology, those compact, efficient, multi-fuel engines, shape the future of those industries?
That's a great question. It really highlights how innovation in one area can have a ripple effect across multiple sectors.
And how breakthroughs can build upon each other, leading to even greater progress.
Exactly. It's an exciting time to be following these developments.
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Kamani's world. We'll be back next time with another fascinating exploration of innovation and the people who make it happen.
Hey everyone. So given it's the age of AI, I figured I'd make episode 3 a bit interesting and use the power of AI to welcome this episode and have Notebook discuss my first deal memo and an angel investor covering Liquid Piston. Apologies as there is no video, just audio. That being said, enjoy.